Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Today I want to share with you a really special restorative practice actually. It's one of my personal favourite ways to practice restorative yoga. I'm going to call it restorative yoga for creativity. Call it that. Restorative yoga for creativity and motivation. For this practice today, you will need some time. Starting off, some time. This practice is going to last you longer than the video is. So the way we're going to structure it is, I will show you the variations of the shape. I will then encourage you to set yourself a timer. And I will suggest how long I think that shape might last you, but you can adjust the timings depending on how much time you have. I'm going to aim for a practice here that will maybe take about an hour for you to get through comfortably, but you could make that last longer. If you've got 90 minutes, spend a delicious 90 minutes. If you've only got 45 minutes, you can tighten up those timings and you can enjoy this practice in 45 minutes. Things that you will need apart from some time and something to time yourself with are 2 blankets. It's quite simple, this one. 2 blankets, 2 pillows. Pillows off your bed will do perfectly. You ideally want pillows rather than cushions because you want a bit of length to the shape. The blankets, any blankets are fine. If you're struggling to find 2 blankets that you like the idea of, grab 2 chunky towels and that will do the job perfectly well. You will also need, for this practice, a notebook and a pen. We're going to come into just a very brief period, and I'll give you a prompt and I'll talk you through that, but just a very brief period of journaling quite near to the end of the practice. So those are the bits and pieces that you need. You might need a mat. If not a mat, lay out a blanket on the floor, find yourself a nice clear space of carpet to practice on. You don't really need a mat for this one. That's everything that you'll need. You might want to play some music if that suits you. You'll definitely want to make sure that the room is quiet. So I'll let you get yourself sorted. Pause the video here, go and gather up what you need, and when you come back, hit play and we'll get started. Okay, so we'll get started with jumping straight into our first shape. So our first shape is going to be Viparita Karani, which is legs up the wall. If you don't have a clear space of wall, I will show you how this shape works against the edge of the sofa or against a chair or against the edge of the bed. So as I mentioned before, the structure that we're going to use, I will show you how the shape works, then I will let you set your timer, drop into silence. You're going to pause the video, drop into silence or listen to music, whatever feels like the right fit for you. And then when you feel ready to come out of the shape, you'll press play on the video and I'll move you into the next shape. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start by setting our pillows off to one side because we don't need them here. Pillows are going to come off to one side. So I'll pop them over here so they're right out of the way. We don't need them here. If you have a clear section of wall, fantastic, you're going to use that. If you're using a clear section of wall, you'll need 1 blanket. The blanket is going to support the back of your head. I'm actually going to switch for this one. You want it folded up to a nice kind of solid block. Let's get that sorted first. So fold it up to a nice solid block that's really going to provide good support under the back of your head. You can pop that on the floor. Chances are it'll be miles away from where you need it to be, so you're probably going to have to adjust it anyway. I always overshoot the length of my body in this one. You're going to come to sit right up against the wall if you're working against the wall. From that position, support yourself with your hands as you roll the body back. As you roll the body back, you're going to draw your legs into an upright position up the wall. You'll reach back, find your blanket and adjust it into the right position behind your head. So it's providing full support for the back of the head. My hips are probably about a couple of inches away from the wall. There is a slight relaxed bend in my knees. My feet are soft. You can have your feet at any distance that works for you here, but we're not coming into a straddle. We're not coming into a stretch. So you do want to feel that everything is comfortable, that the weight of the legs is dropping down into the pelvis. Your hands can rest wherever you like. Maybe they're coming out wide by your sides, Maybe they're going to rest on the belly. For some of us, it will feel more comfortable to let the hands rest up and overhead. If you're working against the wall, take your time to set yourself up in that position now. If you're not working against the wall and you want to work against the edge of a sofa, chair, or a bed, I will just quickly show you how you're bringing yourself into that here, although chances are you might have worked it out. You're going to sit up against the edge of the bed, and all you'll do is swing your legs so that the belly of the calf muscle rests against the top of the bed, or the chair, or the sofa, and you'll lay the body down, again, providing your head with that perfect support you've created in the blanket. And as you bring yourself down here, you've got exactly the same options with the hands. They go wide, they rest on the belly, or they come up and overhead. Take your time to settle yourself into the version of that shape that makes sense for you here. There is no hurry, and you're going to bring yourself into your version of that shape. What we have done here is started the practice by dropping immediately into an inversion. And if we're thinking about using restorative yoga as a tool for creativity, there are a few things that are critically important. The first is silence, or quiet, real quiet. And I will give you the time to drop into quiet in this posture momentarily. I'll let you know when it's time. But I just want to explain why that quiet is so important. And it might be something that you have observed in other kind of times in your life, in other places in your life. Have you ever noticed that you find yourself with brilliant ideas when you're driving up and down the M1, the world's most boring motorway, or when you're in the shower, or just before you go to bed? And it's because those are spaces that we are familiar in. We've found our familiar kind of routine. Our brain doesn't need to think. There's no thinking involved really in taking a shower. You run through the motions the same as you do every day. And what that allows space for is for the mind to wander and to entertain itself in other ways. And that's where those amazing flashes of inspiration or that brilliant creativity comes from. So quiet, silence, space in the mind is super important for creativity. The second thing that is critical for us to find creativity in our body, in our mind, is courage. It takes a lot to follow a creative idea that has just popped up for you. It takes a lot of bravery to allow that space in for those creative ideas to flow. And so today's practice is structured in such a way that we will go in first by turning everything on its head, by bringing the body into this upside down position, this inversion. We allow everything to slow down, and for some elements of kind of energy moving in the body, maybe the breath in particular, to draw into reverse. Make sure that you found yourself in a comfortable version of this shape for you. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to press pause on the video and to set your timer here for 5 to 10 minutes. Before you do that, I'm going to leave you with a quote. This is a quote from Elizabeth Gilbert, who's a beautiful writer. And she asks, "Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are inside yourself?" Press pause on the video now and start your timer for 5 to 10 minutes. When you're ready to come back, all you need to do is press play. When you're ready to bring yourself out of this shape, just come back into the shape so you can follow along if you're in any way confused. But when you are ready to bring yourself out of this shape, you'll start with small movements, wiggling the fingers and the toes. Maybe you stretch the ankles and the wrists. Wherever you are, You'll know when it's the right moment to do so. You'll draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a bit of a hug. And then roll your body over gently onto your favourite side. Lay yourself there on your favourite side and pause for a moment. And then gently pushing the floor away, you'll bring yourself up to a comfortable seat. I'm going to suggest that you might want to extend your legs out long, just so that you can get a little bit of movement in the body. I like to hang back into my hands and just find a bit of movement, maybe through the legs, through the body. Allow this movement to head in any direction that feels right. So our next shape, when you're ready to move into it, is a posture that provides a safe space. So we've talked already about how the kind of magic ingredients for creativity are space, time, and courage. This shape is intended to start to open up the back of the body while providing support and comfort. So if there is any nervousness, if there is any fear around letting that creativity out, this posture is a lovely place to feel held, to feel comfortable and supported. So we're going to come into a supported child's pose, and I'll talk you through it. You're going to need your cushions for this one, so you're going to bring them back out in front of you. The cushions are going to rest on the floor. You might choose to use a blanket to support between your hips and your heels. So you could tuck a blanket in between your hips and your heels, or you might tuck a blanket in underneath the front of your feet. So whichever feels like a better fit, or maybe both. Maybe you're using two blankets and you've got one between your hips and your heels and one underneath the fronts of your feet. The cushions are in front of you and your knees are at the corners of the cushions. So you're sitting upright, hips to heels, or hips supported on a blanket. You're going to take your second blanket and you want it folded into a sort of heavy rectangle. And I'll show you the reason for that. Pop it to just one side of your hips. I'm going to take a little bit of wiggling to get this into the perfect position, but I'm sure we're going to manage it together. Take an inhale breath, find a bit of length. Exhale, and you'll bring the body down into that supported child's pose on the cushions. The hands might tuck in under the cushions, giving the cushions a little bit of a hug, a little bit of a squeeze in. So the body is held just a little bit away from the floor. You're going to take your hand, which is on the side that the blanket is, and just draw the blanket in that heavy rectangle up and over the back of the body. And it might take a bit of adjusting, a bit of wiggling to get it into the right place, but you want it to hug over the back of the hips to feel heavy against the lower back. This kind of added element of kind of warmth, weight, support is a lovely place to remind yourself that you are fully supported here, fully held. Your shoulders might relax away from your ears. You're going to take a breath. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pause the video and maybe start your music, set your timer. You're going to set your timer in this pose for 5 to 10 minutes. Before you do that, I'll leave you with a quote. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures that are inside yourself? Pause the video now, and when you're ready to come out of the shape, all you're going to do is press play. When you're ready to make a move, you'll start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You'll draw the hands in underneath the shoulders and very gently press the body off the bolster, all the cushions that are out in front of you. Using your hands, just draw the blanket that is on your lower back up and away. Going to pop off to one side. And we're going to transition out of child's pose into a different shape just momentarily for 10 breaths or so. So you're going to tuck the toes underneath, press the knees back. You might want to take a moment stretching here, and from here we'll bring ourselves up into our forward fold. So you're hanging out over the legs. You might choose to move very gently, let the head hang. You could choose here to clasp hold of opposite elbows and let the head just hang. We're here for 10 breaths. We're letting the blood rush to the head. We're feeling the body soft, dangling over the legs supporting us but not rigid. You can keep a bend in your knees. Take a last breath here. Release the grip that you've got on your elbows if you were holding them. Put a gentle bend in your knees. Draw your belly in and roll yourself right the way up to stand. Take your time coming up. Gently roll your way up to stand. Once you've found yourself there, we're going to make our way gently back down to the floor. But you might want to take a couple of breaths in your Tadasana if that feels comfortable. When you are ready to come back down to the floor, we'll meet and set ourselves up for our next restorative shape. Our next restorative shape is our final shape before Shavasana. So we're working a 4-shape practice. And we have inverted the body through Viparita Karani, legs up the wall. We have opened up the back of the body and felt held, supported, lent in to any kind of fear or nervousness around creativity. This next shape is our opportunity to open up through the center of the body, through the chest. So we're going to move into a single blanket back bend here. You're going to use one of your blankets. I'm actually going to switch and just use my other one. It's a little bit thicker. One of your blankets folded into a shape which is roughly about the size of your torso. And what I've done here is folded over the top half of my blanket to create a slightly thicker top edge. That thicker top edge is going to go at the top. You might choose to use your pillows to support the backs of your knees, and you could, if you want to, use your other blanket to cover the body. I will show you how it looks. You're welcome to follow me into it or just watch and then set yourself up afterwards. I'm going to use the cushions to support the backs of my knees. So they're going to come underneath the backs of the legs. My bottom is just at the bottom of the blanket because that's a good guideline for where I need to be. Actually, probably need to be a little bit higher up, just looking at that. You're going to bring yourself back until it feels as though the blanket is touching. I try and keep my arms out of the way as I come down so you can see what I'm doing. The blanket is touching the very bottom edge of the shoulder blades. The shoulders find the floor. The blanket lifts the chest. So you can see there, when I lift my arms up and out of the way, there's a very gentle, supported arch lifting in my chest. You can squish the pillows underneath your knees into the right shape. The arms might come out wide by your sides. You might be down by the sides of the body. For some of us, they might rest up and overhead. Totally your choice, whatever feels like the right fit for you. Take your time in bringing yourself into this shape. As you come into it, feel the shoulder blades on the floor, the blanket gently lifting and supporting the back of the body as the chest, the heart space spills open. Let the body rest against the floor, so you're not holding or gripping any part of the body here. And allow yourself to feel open. Open and comfortable. Open and held. Open and supported. So not open and at risk or exposed, but held, supported, stable. In a moment, you're going to set your timer. Pausing the video and setting your timer, I'm going to suggest that you spend 10 to 15 minutes in this shape. Maybe setting your alarm for 8 minutes from now, 12 minutes from now, something in that mark would be good. Before you go and drop into stillness and drop into silence, I'll remind you of our quote. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures within yourself? Pause the video now. When you're ready to come back to make movement, all you're going to do is press play. When you feel ready to move, you'll start to wiggle fingertips and toes, maybe rolling ankles. Maybe you want to turn the head from one side to the other. Eventually, you'll very gently bring the feet onto the floor, and that might mean you need to kick the pillows away. Feet come onto the floor. From there, you'll roll over onto your side. Take your time. From this position, laying on your side, you'll gently press yourself up to find a comfortable seat. And before we come into our final relaxation, our final shavasana, we're going to turn our attention to the journal, the notebook that we brought with us. So find yourself a comfortable seat. Maybe you want to have a stretch to move the body in any way that feels good. And you're going to take your notebook and your pen. You might lean back against the wall or against the sofa. You might need to go and sit somewhere else so that you can feel comfortable. You're going to set your timer for 10 minutes. So we're going to spend 10 minutes just, I like to think of this as exhaling onto the page. So anything that may have come up from these postures that we are in, from these movements that we've made, from the shapes that you've found yourself in, 10 minutes to just exhale onto the page. And just because sometimes the first marks you make on the page are the most difficult, I'm going to start you off with a sentence. So at the top of the page, I'd love for you to begin by writing the words, I am creative, full stop, and then the words, I am. And I'll let you carry on from there. Maybe you continue to play your music. You're going to set a timer now, 10 minutes. And when you've completed your 10 minutes, all you need to do is come back and press play on the video. When you've completed your 10 minutes, you're going to close the journal. You're going to set it to one side. It might be that you never reread the words that you wrote here. It might be that something amazing came up for you. It might be that you spent 10 minutes writing, I didn't know what to write, which is fine. You're going to set the journal to one side, let that go. And we'll bring ourselves into our final relaxation, our final shavasana. We're going to use one of our blankets to support the back of the head. So you might fold that into a kind of comfortable little wedge that's going to support the back of the head. Your other blanket you can use to cover the body, and your cushions will support the backs of the knees. Again, you're going to want your timer to hand. You're going to want your timer to hand. You're going to want to be in a position where you can reach out and pause this video. I'll show you how we're coming into that shavasana. We're going to bring the legs over the cushions, maybe give them a bit of a squash so that they're really doing a good job of supporting the backs of the knees. The body will come down. The shoulders are on the floor, the back of the head rests against the blanket, so you should be able to see there. My neck is completely supported by that blanket folded up underneath me. I'm going to take my second blanket and just use it to cover the body. You can cover the body from the toes all the way up to your chin, or if it's a bit warmer where you are and you don't feel like you need the entire body covered, my suggestion is always to just cover the upper body and make sure the hands are tucked in. Once you've found yourself in your comfortable version of Shavasana, you're going to set your timer here for 10 to 15 minutes. Something around 12 minutes might be nice. Once you've set your timer, One last time, I'm going to remind you of that quote that we're working with. Do you have the courage to bring forth the treasures from within yourself? Set your timer now. Pause the video. When you feel ready to move, all you're going to do is press play, and we'll come back and end the practice together. When you feel ready to move, you'll start to wiggle the toes and the fingertips. You'll start to roll the wrists and the ankles. Maybe turning the head from side to side, just waking the body up any way that feels right for you. You might want a big stretch, the arms coming up and overhead. You might be ready to just draw the knees up into the chest and give yourself a bit of a hug. From wherever you are, you'll roll yourself over onto your favourite side and pause there. Before you very gently press the floor away and bring yourself up to a comfortable seat, take your time. There is no hurry, there is absolutely no rush. Once you've found yourself in a comfortable seat, you might keep your eyes closed or the gaze cast down towards the floor. Now I'd love for you to end this practice by just repeating your first words from that journaling page in your mind. So we'll repeat the words, I am creative, in your mind here 3 times. And then you'll let them go. Take a final breath in through your nose. Let that breath go out. If you want to seal your practice, you're welcome to. Maybe bring your hands together to heart center, bow the head to the heart, or anything else that feels right in your body. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me in this safe, brave space. I hope you felt able to tap into some thread of creativity. And this is a practice that you can come back to whenever you feel like you need to kickstart that creativity, that motivation. I'll see you all really soon.